This is a pretty good place to start because it has a lot of details that you can configure. Now, some of these items I have not explained to you, but you can explore. For example, notice periods. It's very easy to configure this. You can just go and search for notice periods, and you'll see all the task related notice period. Explore it. If you are not able to understand how to do it, then ask me, I will help you, but you'll have to ask me the questions. Without asking me questions, I don't know if you are practicing or not practicing. And you have about a month access to this tenant. So if you slack off right now, later if you even plan on practicing, you will not have access to the tenant to practice it. And search for the supervisory org that we created. So not create supervisory, this one. So I remember we used Amazon UK Development Center as job management. Now, before you even start hiring, like I fixed this one, we had a small security issue, I fixed it. So before you even start hiring an employee into an organization, first you'll have to set up the hiring restrictions in the supervisory org that is using job management. Okay, so this is how you do it. You go to the related actions and you scroll down to the organization. So in the organization, you will see that edit hiring restrictions. If I go into hiring restrictions, you'll have to provide the availability date and the earliest hire date. So basically, this is where you will set that from which day this particular from which day you can start hiring employees into the supervisory organization. When it was position management, you don't have to do this at a supervisory org level because you will be adding these details on every single position. So whenever you create a position, you will also add the availability date and the earliest hire date on that particular position. Whereas when it comes to the supervisory org that is using job management, you cannot set hiring restrictions on positions. The reason being, positions are not created in job management. You when you hire an employee, the position will automatically create. You don't have to specifically first create a position and then later hire. That is the difference between the position management and job management. So here, this is where you will set the hiring restrictions at the support level. So if you look here, I have not set any specific restrictions, meaning I can hire employee from any location, any job profile, uh, any kind of type or worker type into my org, because there are no job restrictions. So if I once I submit this, so once the hiring restrictions are set at the organization level, you will be able to hire employees. So if I scroll down now and go to staffing, you'll see an option to hire. There should be directly an option to hire here. So you can see there is an option to hire an employee. So I can directly start hiring anyone here. So let's create a new pre-hire. I'm going to call this person. I'm going to call this Tom Holland. When you are creating a pre-hire, one thing you need to remember is every pre-hire should have at least one contact information. So it can be a phone or an email or an address. I'm going to be using phone as the contact. Okay, I just created a pre-hire for Tom Holland, and now I'll go and start hiring this employee. So start your hire. So the hire date, I will give it as yesterday's date. You can also hire retroactively, meaning I can hire that employee in 1/1/2024. The thing is, this particular organization is available. So the availability date that I selected is 3/5/2024. So I cannot hire before the availability date. So that's another thing. Whenever you are setting the position restrictions, be careful what the date that you will put there, because the date that you will set there, before that date, you won't be able to hire the employee. So let me give it as today's date. The reason for hire, I'll just select. I remember we have created reasons called AMZ hire. AZ, was it AZ? AMZ. Does anyone remember what was the reason that we created? I'll just write new position. Um, the employee type for current country, Amazon consultants. Location, I'll say AMZ London. So we have London here. Job profile. So here I'll just look for one of the recent job profiles. Um, let's say Workday. Do we have anything with Workday? Pay rate type salary. I'll say salary. Easy pay rate type. Time type is full time. Everything else is fine. What is there about? Select a work shift. Someone did some erroneous configure. I'll just fix it quickly. Um, I'll explain this when we discuss business process. For now, just observe what I'm doing. I'm just creating a specific process for my own org. You see work shift not enterable for all. I'll just remove this. Okay. Now let me go to supervisory org, Amazon development. So going back to UK, let me start hiring again. So hire employee. I already have pre-hire. So let me just search for Tom Holland here in United Kingdom. I'll say there you go. I think this is the Tom Holland that we created. Yeah, I'll just select the first one. Ah, not this one. I think this is not the one. Maybe this is the right one. Okay, let's hire this employee. Okay, so now if you look here, I have hired one employee, Tom Holland, and you can see that the position is already automatically created. So in job management, you call it as a job. In position management, you call it as a position. You can see the job ID is already created, and this is the ID of the job. Okay, it automatically creates. You don't have to first create a specific position and then hire. It automatically creates the position for the employee. Any questions here? So this is the difference between the position management and the job management. And depending upon the requirements from the client and depending upon the client scenario, you will advise the client to follow either position management or the job management staffing model. Okay, now let us talk about the next topic, which is the job requisitions in Workday. Now, job requisitions is a topic from the recruitment module, but I will give you an overview of what exactly a job requisition is so that you understand at least something about job requisitions. But it is primarily from recruitment module. Okay. So a job requisition, the definition of a job requisition is a formal request to create a position and post it for and post it to attract applications. So in an organization, let's say there is a requirement, there is a new position available, meaning you are hiring for a new position in your organization, and somebody like there will be the manager. Let's take the manager recognizes said that, hey, I need to hire a new employee, I want to hire a new person. So what the manager does is he will initiate a job requisition process. So in the job requisition, you're basically saying that I want to hire a person into this particular position that I have in my organization, and I want this position, this job vacancy to be posted in internal and external career sites. So when I say internal and externally, so if you're familiar with how corporates work, um, whenever there is a new job opening, sometimes some organizations do allow you to change jobs internally. For example, let's say you are a recruiter right now. You are a recruiter right now, and this company works in the Workday domain, suppose, and you have been a recruiter for last 4 years. Now there is an opening for a Workday recruitment consultant in this company, and since this person has been a recruiter for 4 years, when this particular job requisition is created, it is posted externally, meaning applications from outside are also considered for this position. But this position might also be posted internally, meaning employees who are already in that particular company, they can also apply, and maybe this recruiter also applies for this position because that person is interested. Okay, so that's called internally posting and external posting. I will discuss more about it in some time. Okay, so for now, understand. So the job requisition is like a formal request to hire a person into a position. So once the job requisition is created, when you are creating a job requisition, you also have to specify which position you want to create that particular requisition. Okay, once you create the job requisition, you will post this requisition on the external career sites. External career sites meaning every company will have a careers section. If you browse through any company's website, there will be an option called as career. Basically, you can look for what are the open positions in that particular company, and then you can start applying for the jobs in that company. So that is called as an external career. So when you create a job requisition, you will post it in the career site, and from this career site, the applications will be created. So the applicants like yourself, you will go and browse the career site. You will see there is a job posting for this particular there is a job posting here, and they will click on apply, and they will apply and send you will be sending your own resume and all the details that they ask. Then that particular application will be sent to Workday, and the recruiters will be able to view those applications in Workday. So that is called as that is a basic definition of how the job requisition works in Workday. Now, if you are going as an HCM consultant, that is what you're preparing for, HCM, you don't have to worry about job requisition, because there will not be any questions asked about the job requisition, or you will be required to work on creating or managing any kind of job requisition. The main reason being, job requisition is not an HCM concept at all. It is very specific to the recruitment module. But anyway, since it was part of one of the curriculum, it is part of the curriculum. I just want to give you a very basic overview of what a job requisition does in Workday. Any questions? I'll just quickly show you by creating a job requisition. So let me go to so for creating a job requisition, first you need a position, because when you will be raising a job requisition for a position in Workday. So let me see if I have open positions. All right, I do have some two positions in this particular supervisory org. So this is how you create a job requisition. It's very simple. Just search for create job requisition. So once you create a job requisition, it will ask you for which position you want to create. So I will say I want to create the job requisition for in this particular supervisory org. What's happening? So job requisition business process is what triggers the job requisition. I'm just checking why exactly it is not recognizing this particular supervisory organization for the job requisition to talk about the requisition per se. We'll just move on to positions now. Well, see, the employee, we have employee worker type, and we have contingent worker. These are the two worker types that you have to understand. An employee meaning this is a full-time employee. It can be a full-time employee or a part-time employee, but the thing is, this person is a part of your organization. Like this person has an employee number and will be part of your organization's payroll. Whereas you will have contingent worker. These are like contractors. So a contractor is someone this is an employee from outside, like a specific, like an expert consultant. Okay, this person will not be part of the organization. Like, let's take Amazon for example. Amazon, there are two employees. There is this employee, and then there is this contingent worker. Okay, so this employee's name is Tom, and we have Jack, who is a contingent worker. Tom will be an employee of Amazon, meaning this person is in Amazon records, and they will have all the benefits of an employee of Amazon. Whereas Jack is a contingent worker, meaning this person is a contractor who is hired from a third party company. Contingent worker. So contingent workers are like contractors. They will be hired from a third party company who generally provides a specific type of consulting services. Like when you will be working as an AMS consultant, when you join companies, if you join a service based company, you will be you will be working for other companies as a contingent worker. You will be joining as a contingent worker, meaning this particular employee uh, will be in the Amazon's Workday system as a contractor, and but you will not be an employee of Amazon. You will still be an employee of maybe Accenture or Deloitte, whichever company that you join, and you are just providing your services to Amazon. Amazon will pay your payroll company, basically whichever company you join, and they will pay you. So when you look at an employee in Amazon, you will see that Tom will have all the details, including their compensation details, whereas contingent worker will not see those compensation details. It will not be there at all, because for a contingent worker, it is their payroll company who makes those compensation payments and handles the payroll. Again, we'll be discussing this, since I did not discuss it yet because of the compensation aspect to it. For employees who are a full-time employee, they will have comp, and employees who are contractor, they will not have. So I will be hiring. I will also show you. We did already hire employees. We'll also hire contractors into Workday, and I'll show you how we do that. You can create condition rules. Again, we are still getting into Workday. You might be having a lot of questions. um, you will understand these questions when we discuss the business processes in Workday.
Sure.
So there are condition rules, there are validation rules. When we discuss compensation, also we have compensation eligibility rules. So basically, whenever this term rules come into the picture, there will be some kind of a conditional logic that will be applied, and you will understand more. Um, so just hold on to your horses. You will learn all that.
Yeah.
Okay, so the last topic, the position statuses. So we have seen how we create a position, right? We just created a position called as Workday Consultant. Now, whenever you create a position, this position is in what status? It is in open status. Okay, meaning you can now hire employees into this position. Once you have hired an employee into this position, so you have found a person and you have hired this employee, this particular position will go into filled status. Once you hire an employee, this position goes into fill status. Once the employee gets terminated, this position will again go back into open status, and this will keep going on. So the position is open, you hire an employee, it goes into filled, employee leaves, employee leaves, it will go back to open status. You can also, once the employee leaves, if you choose, you can also close this position, saying that, hey, I don't need this position anymore. I can close this position. Once the position is closed, all the position history whatever history was associated with that particular position will also be closed, meaning you will not be able to access it anymore. It just completely closes or removes it. That history is gone. So that is one of the reasons people use position management or job management. If you want to keep the history as it is, you will keep that position in open status, or once the employee leaves, you'll just leave it at open status so that someone else can be hired into that same position. However, if you want to close this position, you will also have to understand that when you close the position history will also be lost along with that position. Let's suppose that they still want to close it. What happens is, they can, at the time of terminating an employee, you can also close that particular position. So at the time of terminating, it will ask, would you like to leave this particular position open as it is? If you select yes, then the position will be set as open. But if you say that no, you want to close this position, you can close it. Now let us consider a scenario where you have a position, and this position is currently occupied by a person. This person is leaving in the end of the month. So 31st of March is the last day for this position, and this company don't want to hire another employee for until 1st of June. So from 31st of March till 1st of June, I don't want to hire anyone. I don't want to hire anyone. However, I also don't want to close this position. I also don't want to close this position. So what would you do? I don't want to also keep the position in open status until that time, or I don't want to close this position because I still want to hire an employee on 1st of June. So there is another position status called as freeze position. So freeze position is like you will freeze this particular position until a specific date. So let's say I want to freeze the position until 1st of June. You can freeze the position. So as of 1st of April, you will initiate a position freeze from 1st of April until the June, March, April, May. So until end of May, this particular position will be in freeze status, meaning you will not be able to hire anyone into this particular position. After on 1st of June, you will be able to unfreeze this particular position and start hiring. Let us take a look at how those position statuses look in Workday. If I go to staffing, you see that these are the open positions which are currently in unfilled status. If I go to one of the employees here, this employee is in this particular position, and this position is right now in fill status because there is already an employee who is hired. You can see the name of the employee associated with this particular position, whereas the other two positions don't have an employee's name, meaning those are currently unfilled, and it will clearly say that these are open positions because those are unfilled. Now this is how the both of those status looks like. If I want to close this position, I can also close it. I can go to job change. You see there is a close position button. If I select close position, it will basically say what is the date of closure. If I select yesterday's date, and I'm going to, the reason I select 25th is because of the time zone thing. If this tenant follows a US time zone, so even if I close it, let's say 26th, it will not be closed until tomorrow for me because this is still in not an Indian time zone. So I usually do a day before to close it as of today. So if I submit this, now this position will have closed. So you can see the status of this particular position is now in closed. Now if I go to Amazon Global Center, you will see that you will only see one single position in the staffing. So there is only one position because the other position is now closed. You can see in the unavailable to fill, this position has been closed. Now if suppose like the scenario that I mentioned, you don't want to close this position, but you also don't want to hire an employee into this position. So instead, you want to freeze this position for the time being. So this is how you will freeze the position. You will go to the position related actions, and here you see manage position freeze. So you just click on manage position freeze and you select the date you want to freeze this particular position. So let's say as of today, I want to mark this particular position as frozen. And if I click on submit, this particular position will now be in freeze status. Meaning if I go to the supervisory org here, and if I look at the staffing, you will not see any positions available, meaning there are no positions that are currently available for hire. If I go to unavailable for hire, unavailable to fill, you will see there is a closed position. This position is closed, meaning you will not be able to again reopen this position. It is gone. You have closed that particular position. However, this position you can see frozen position. A frozen position is not a permanent closure, it is a temporary closure. Meaning today you have frozen this particular position, but you will also be unfreezing this position in the future. So how do you unfreeze this particular position? It is very easy. You can go to the same related action, and you can also see the status of the position is in frozen status. You'll go to again manage position freeze, and right now you can see that this particular position is in frozen status. So that's why this particular option is already selected, and you can see the last updated date as 25th of March 2024, which was the date that we selected for freezing this position. If you go to the history as well, you can see that this position was created on 19th, and as of 25th this particular position has been in frozen status. Now as we discussed, I want this position to be frozen until uh, m- first March 31st. So I'm going to unfreeze it on 1st of June. So I'll select 1st of June and I will select unfrozen. And if I submit this, this particular position will be available for hire. So even today, this particular position is in frozen status. But if I go to the history here, business process history here, you will see that as of 25th this position is in frozen status, and as of 1st of June this position will be unfrozen, meaning it will again become available for hire. So this is how you can manage the positions. There is an open position, there is a filled position. So open position or unfilled position, both are same. So it's an open for hire. We have a filled position, meaning that is already filled by someone. You have a closed position, which is closing the position, and you have a frozen position, which is like a temporary hold on the position. A lot of companies use position freezing. Sometimes you have created a position and then the position will go to scrap, so you might don't want to close that position entirely, because that particular position is right now on a hold status. Later you might want to open it, so people don't want to close it, they'll just move that position into a frozen status. So let me start with this topic, business process in Workday. Take some time to go through the assignment that I have given, the Workday HCM capstone project. It has a lot of requirements. It will require you to think through and understand the requirement and then start configuring. So if you start practicing, you will get a lot of questions when you are doing the practice. If you're just coming to the class and listen to me, you will not be you're just listening. I mean, right now when I explain these things to you, it looks very easy, and it doesn't look so complicated. But when you start practicing and when you start to think for yourself, you will get 100 questions in your head. So start doing those practice and get back to me with questions. When we start the sessions, I usually join like 5-7 minutes early, and we still have like a 10-15 minutes of buffer before we end the call. So you have that time to ask your questions and clarify your doubts, and make use of that time. Okay. Okay. Now let us start with the business process. So business process is nothing but it's a step by step a step-by-step flow to execute a transaction. So a transaction could be something like a hire an employee, or if you want to promote a worker, or if you are trying to change the location of the employee, or if an employee is trying to change the personal data. All these are different transactions. So this might be initiated by the employee, this might be initiated by the HR person, okay? This might be initiated by the manager. But regardless of all this, they are all transaction to execute a specific action in Workday. So whenever you initiate these different processes in Workday, it will in the background, it triggers something called as a business process. So business process is like a step-by-step flow to execute a transaction. And the reason we need a business process in Workday is because it makes it standardizes the process. It basically standardizes the entire process and make sure everyone is following a specific process when they are trying to execute a transaction. For instance, let's say you are hiring an employee. So when you are hiring the employee, there might be before you even start hiring, first what you have to do, you have to create a position. So when, let's say, the HR partner in the company, they initiate a position creation. When a position is requested, so when you are trying to create a position, this particular position will have to be first approved by the cost center manager. Suppose this is a requirement in the company. Every position that is created, it has to go for an approval to the cost center manager. And once the cost center manager has approved, it will create the position will be created. Now when you are hiring an employee into this position, it will go, let's say the recruiter has initiated hire for an employee into this position. It will go to the manager, it has to go to the manager for review, and then it has to go to manager's manager for review. Even before you finalize the compensation of the worker, it has to go to the compensation administrator for approval. It has to go through the director for approval, the manager of manager for approval. Suppose if the company has a specific process to be followed, so if the company has a specific process that needs to be followed when they are hiring an employee, when they are terminating an employee, when an employee is changing any personal information, if there is a specific process that needs to be followed and standardized across the organization, that is when we use business processes in Workday. So basically, a business process is like a flow chart. It will show the flow of a process, and this particular flow will be standardized across the organization. So regardless of the employee is in India or a different country, you can standardize this process across the globe, across all the organizations. Now there will be certain times when you might want to have a specific flow for employees in India. You might want to have a specific workflow for employees in the United States, meaning the business process will be the same, but the flow will be different. Because if an employee is, let's say, from the United States, there will be certain type of forms that the employee has to complete, like the I-9 form, and there are certain other legal documents. Similarly, if an employee is from India, there are certain documents that the employee has to submit regarding the PF and gratuity, and there are a lot of other legal and federal requirements that the company will give the employee to us to fill these details and complete. Okay, now although the entire process is same, you also might want certain times where it has to branch. If the employee is from India, then execute these specific number of steps. So let's say you are hiring the employee. Okay, the business process will execute, and let's say if there is a branch where if the employee is from India, then a specific this has to branch, and a specific number of steps has to follow before it goes to completion. But if the employee is from another country like the US, there should be a different process that needs to be followed before it goes to completion. So you can also have the business process execute certain steps or not execute certain steps in order to standardize the entire process. So if the employee is from a specific country, then you have their own country specific steps to be executed. For an employee in US, these steps will not be executed. Similarly, for an employee in India, these steps will not be executed. So you have this feasibility to configure the business process flow and standardize that across the tenant. So that is when we use business processes in Workday. Now there are two types of business process. One is a rule based definitions, and one is default definitions in Workday. These are the two different types of business process definitions that you need to remember, or you need to understand, because every organization uses only most organizations that I have worked with, they always use these two types of business process. There is one more type, but it is almost never used, but I will show you what exactly it is. That is called copied on top of org, copied on top of organization. This is very rarely used or almost never used, but there is an option to do that as well. I will show you that. But these are the two types which you have to very closely understand. We will get into this later, but I just wanted to give you that. Okay, there are two types of business process. Let us first focus on the default business process. So the default business process is like Workday delivered business processes in Workday. We call it default business process. So these are called as the default definitions in Workday, and these are Workday delivered business processes. So when you first create a tenant, like the foundation tenant, that is even before you start implementing Workday for your client, you will first create a foundation tenant. The implementers will be doing that activity. Basically, when I say implementer, the solution architects of the projects, they will create the foundation tenant. So they will add, and they will create all the foundation locations and all the so basically they will have the basic foundation configured so that you can build on top of it. And when you are doing that, based on the modules that the company uses, so if they are using HCM module, there are a list of business process. Maybe there are 200 business processes in HCM. All these 200 business processes will be created, and they will be having the default definitions. Okay, so we actually call it, all the default business processes are called as default definition. When you first create a foundation tenant, Workday will be creating the default definition. So this is a default business process definition. Let me see if I can show you that default definition. Now, one of the problem with this tenant is, since a lot of people use it, people create their own version of definitions for every single default. So they will not use a default, they will rather use their own definition, which is a version of the default. So if I even search for a higher business process, and this is how you do it: BP colon higher. So I'm searching for business process definition called higher, and you can see that there are a lot of versions for higher business process, but you are not seeing the default definition. The reason being that a lot of people are using this specific tenant to configure business process. You can see that there are a lot of higher business process. Let us see create position. So create position is also a business process. Like a lot of create positions. Let's try another business process called move workers. Let me think. You see here, default definition. Okay. So you will see a similar definition for all the HCM business process. The reason I'm not able to show you the hire is because the default definition for hire is there somewhere buried in this big list of definitions somewhere. Here you still have the default definition. Maybe Hmm. So there are more than 100 definitions in this, and it will only show you a particular a short list of those definitions, and that is the reason I'm not able to find it. However, if I search for contract contingent worker, we still people have not modified this particular business process as much, so you are still able to see the default definition. There are again certain rule based and other definition, but I'm able to see the default definition on the very top. So this is how the default definition of a business process is going to look like. It will say clearly this is a default definition. So whenever you see this particular term called as the default definition, that means it is a Workday delivered definition. Now companies can start directly using the default definitions, and most of the time companies do use only the default definitions. However, if there is a requirement to create separate definitions for different use cases, they will have a rule-based definition created. We will discuss this particular scenario once we complete discussing all the concepts of the business process. So let me first complete and let me first complete the definitions and explain you all the concepts in a business process, and then we will move on to understand what is a rule based business process definition. Okay, so for now, okay, understand this is called as a business process. Now in a business process you have a lot of options available. Now let us first start with the basic framework of a business process. In a business process you have business process steps. So a business process steps is nothing but, like I explained, right? What is a business process? It will show you the step by step process to execute a transaction in Workday. So you'll have step A, then step B, and then step C. So Workday will first execute step A, and then it will execute step B, and then it will execute step C. So you want to define which step should be executed first, and then which step needs to be executed second, and which step to be executed third, and at what point these business process is going to complete. So these are those steps in Workday. So step A, step B, and so this is called as the order. So business process steps will define the different steps available in the business process. Notifications. So basically, when the business process is complete or when the business process is initiated, some if you want to notify someone, let's say you are creating a position in Workday. Whenever the position is created, I said that that particular position, if you are using position management, those positions will go for an approval to the cost center manager. So whenever the cost center manager approves, so it's not necessarily that as soon as I create a position, as soon as an approval is requested from the cost center manager, they might take maybe 1 or 2 days to review and approve that particular position. Maybe they are currently not available, they will be back in 2 days. So until those 2 days, the manager won't know that if the cost center manager has approved this position or not approved. So if you want to send a notification to the manager whenever there are certain action that is completed, for in this case, when the cost center manager has approved the position, I want to send an email notification to the manager stating, hey, your position has been approved, then now you can start hiring an employee into your position. If you want to send those kind of notifications, you can configure those notifications in this particular section. allowed actions by role. So basically this is where it will show you who can perform what actions in Workday. We will discuss more about it soon. Allowed services, so these are basically like what kind of services are available, like Workday surveys and document delivery. There are a lot of these kind of services that are available, so it will list you it will provide you a list of services that are part of this particular business process. Related links, if there is any specific link related to this particular, like you see that there is a business process policy document that is related, that is assigned to this particular business process. So this is a community link, and this is again delivered by Workday, and you should be having access to community to access this particular link. It is basically like the documentation, so you can directly go to this documentation and understand the details about this business process. And here is the available rules and fields. So we will get back to this soon. I don't want to confuse you with all these different types of fields that are available. We will get back. Now let us go back to the business process steps in Workday. So in the business process steps, the this is the detail of the step. If I click on this magnification glass, it will show me what is the type of step. It is an initiation step, the order, the business process definition. So uh, you can see the details of a particular workflow step. So every single step is called as a workflow step in Workday, and in these business process steps, the order of the step will determine in which order the steps will be executed. So first the step A will be executed, and then the step B will be executed. Let me go and edit this particular definition first, and I can show you what are the different. So this is how you can edit a business process definition. You go to the related actions. So these three dots, go to business process, and you have this option called as edit definition. When you click on this edit definition, it will provide you this particular box. So this is basically the effective date and the time zone. Now, one thing that you need to understand is whenever whenever you are editing a business process in Workday, this is like a thumb rule. Whenever you are making any kind of changes to the business process in Workday, you will always do those changes on the current effective date, meaning today's date. So as per this particular time zone, today's date is 25th of March. Whatever changes that you do will always be effective, current effective date. So you will not make any changes like this. You will not make any retroactive changes, or you will not make any future changes. You will not do either of those. You will always make changes to the business process on the current effective date. If you make changes in the future, it is still fine, meaning you are making a change that should be effective on a future date. However, it is not recommended that you make changes on a past date, and I will tell you what is the reason for that. Suppose you are there is a higher business process. So there are, let's say there are 10 steps that needs to be executed when you are hiring an employee in Workday. There are 10 steps. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Each of these are workflow steps in Workday that needs to be executed before you complete a higher transaction in Workday. Now, if you, let's suppose on 1st of March, you have hired, let's say, 10 employees, effective 1st of March. Okay. Now, as of today, basically on 25th of March, let's say you are going into the tenant and making a change to the business process. You are editing a business process effective 1st of February. So let's say you are adding two more steps in the business, like maybe a few more steps in the business process, effective 1st of February. Now, what will happen is the business process that these employees had gone through when they were hiring, those will become inconsistent. Meaning, you have added a few steps effective 1st of February. So these employees, they were hired on 1st of March. So if you look at the business process effective 1st March, you will see that there are more than 10 steps. There are 10, 11, 12, 13 steps as of 1st of March. However, when you look at these 10 employees, for those 10 employees, there are 3 steps that are missing. So this will cause inconsistencies when in the future when you are making any changes, or when you are correcting, or when you are doing transactions on these workers, it will create problems. So it is always never recommended to edit a business process on a retroactive date. You will not make any changes to the business process retroactively. Even when you are trying to make the changes, Workday does give you an error, or sometimes it gives you a warning saying that, hey, you are making this change retroactively. Are you sure you want to proceed with this change? Because there will be some impacts. This is the impact, no? Having some of the employees business process being inconsistent with the definition, this is one of the impact. So do you want to still go ahead and make that change on a retroactive basis? Do you want to change it that way? So you see here, alert: enter an effective date that's not in the past. You can't submit changes to the business process definition when an event is already in progress. So basically, it's saying that there are certain transactions that this particular business process has used in the past. So if you are making any changes in the past, it might affect those business process definitions. Hence you are not supposed to, I mean, it is not recommended. It is an alert, meaning it's not an error. So you can still edit the business process in the past. It will let you do it. However, it will give you an alert saying that, hey, it is not recommended. However, if you are going to try doing this on a future date, it will not give you any kind of alert, because if you're doing it in the future, it is still fine. But most of the times you will always be doing this on the current effective date. Okay, now I'm editing this particular business process here, and this is how you can add additional steps to the existing business process. So you see this add button here, you can add a new step like this. So it will create a new step in Workday, and these are the different types of steps that are available. So you have an action step. If I select the action step, this will give you the list of actions that are available. So let me explain you the concept of sub process in Workday. So let's say you have a business process like this. In this business process, let's say you have 5 steps. So you have step A, step B, step C, step D, and step E. You have these 5 steps in the business process. Each of these steps will be a specific action that you need to complete. Okay, so when you are executing that particular business process, you have to complete each of these actions. Now, sometimes some of these actions will be a task that you have to execute in Workday. For example, if you look here, for this particular business process, when I select action, there are a lot of actions that are available, like assign worker record, assign work schedule, change personal information. So if I select this change personal information as one of the tasks, you will the person, the group who has to be completing that particular task. Let's say if I put HR admin over here. Okay, if I put the group as HR admin, and the HR admin will have to do a change personal information task. Now this change personal information task might also be a business process in its own, meaning um, it will execute its own definition. So if I duplicate this particular um, tab here and look for change, if I look for change personal information, you see here personal information change. I'm not able to find the default definition, but you can see that there are a lot of personal information change business processes in Workday like this. Okay, let it open. Like I said, so one of these action was change personal information. So when this this task called change personal information, it has its own business process definition, meaning you have another business process called as change personal information, and it has its own steps: A, B, C, D, E, F. It has its own steps in that particular business process. However, this business process is added as a sub process to this contract contingent worker business process. Okay, so what that means is you can have you can have different business process as a part of another business process as a sub process. So change personal information is a sub process to contract contingent worker business process. A sub process meaning you can add this particular action as an action step in the change contract contingent worker business process. So when you are executing contract contingent worker, this change personal information action will be triggered, which will have its own steps like this. It will have its own steps that has to be completed. Once this all these steps are completed, then it will execute the next step. Let's say hire. uh, I'm going to use hire as an example. When you are hiring an employee in Workday, um, you will complete all the activities of hiring. Basically, once the hiring is initiated, there are a lot of details that has to be provided by the HR administrator. So they will be adding different details like what should be the position of the worker, where this particular employee should be staffed, who will be the manager, what will be the employee location. Okay, all these details. When these details are completed, there has to be an onboarding that has to happen, meaning the employee needs to be onboarded into that position. Even when you are joining organization, you will be also be part of onboarding. There will be some onboarding activities that will be planned for you. At the time of onboarding, you might be asked to um, complete certain documents like signing the NDA forms, maybe non-disclosure agreements, or signing some other documents like safety policy. There will be safeguarding policies, abuse policies, a lot of documents that has to be reviewed and signed as a part of your contract. Okay, so this onboarding, each of these processes will have its own steps. So at the time when you are hiring, let's say you the HR admin has completed these activities and it has reached onboarding. Okay, onboarding business process, this is its own business process. So it's like hire is a business process in Workday, onboarding is a business process in Workday. However, you can have onboarding inside hire as a part of hire activity. So it will not be, it can be part, I mean it will be part of the hire, entire hire process. So at the time when you are executing the hire, it will automatically trigger onboarding, and it will be a continuous workflow. So you will not see like, hey, this is hire business process, now onboarding business process started. It will look very continuous, like the hire has initiated and now the onboarding process has automatically initiated. However, onboarding has its own steps and processes that has to be completed. So what you need to understand is there can be a sub process within the business process. So there can be multiple sub processes that will be part of the standard or the parent business process. One parent business process can have multiple sub processes that will be child sub processes.